How do you build your capacity to function in life again? How do you raise your baseline energy? This is something that folks with chronic fatigue, with extreme burnout, with people who have a chronic illness and are bedbound struggle with. So, these are the things that help over a long period of time. At the beginning, in the first stages of the healing, you got to do nervous system regulation work and titrated trauma work. Super slow, super gentle, and just learning to connect with your body and learning to sense your body, learning to sense how the body even communicates with you. Because if you don't know how to do that, then you can't sense when we're hitting or getting closer to a boundary of this is getting too much, we're pushing too much. And we're not taught that growing up. So it makes sense why we even got to a burnout or chronic fatigue, because we went over those boundaries so many times until our body slammed us to a halt and said, no more, can't do this. So learning how to connect and sense and really know, like, how does your system tell you that you're reaching capacity? And this capacity at the beginning will be low because you're burnt out, because you're ill, you're not well. Your baseline is not going to be the same as what it was before. So if you try to get to that baseline of what you were doing before, then you're not going to come out of the chronic illness, burnout, chronic fatigue. You won't. Because part of you being there or maintaining yourself to do all of the things that you managed to do at that level required you to override your own limits, your capacity. Okay, so we start at the bottom. We start at a low energy baseline. Once you learn how to connect back, orient, connect with the environment, when you have that ability to sense your body more on board, at some point, you need to start figuring out what is the level of activity that I can do to maintain this low baseline. So for a few weeks, not to do anything that makes you crash. So not challenging that boundary. So what are the maximum amount of activities that can keep you there and sustain that baseline energy? Super important. And this is something that happens down the line, maybe a year later after doing the nervous system work. I shouldn't say put any numbers to it, but it's not the first stage. And then you test that boundary once you feel you've got a little bit of resilience back in your system. Actually, yeah, the testing is it. This is the part that happens later in the stage. Learning what your limits are at your baseline energy should be something that happens earlier, should be done earlier. But once you feel like you're starting to feel better, you have a bit more energy, know what activities sustain this baseline, then you just do one thing and increase it by 10%, 5 to 10%. That's it. That's it. Just a little bit of a challenge and a stressor in your system. And then you rest for 24 to 48 hours. Just let your body settle. If after 48 hours you didn't experience a crash, it means you can repeat that activity at that incremental level again. So at the beginning, it's the increments are going to feel painfully slow. I know it was for me. But what we want to do is challenge our system, give it that little bit of a tiny stressor, but not stress out the system, if that makes sense. So we do want to increase the capacity by challenging, by maybe doing a longer walk, a 5 minute longer walk. Maybe you socialize with a few more people or extend it to 15 minutes. I don't know what it is for you. And eventually those increments can get bigger, but you have to build that. You have to build that strength in your nervous system, that resiliency in your nervous system. And that's how the baseline slowly goes up. But that is something that you do at a later stage when there is more capacity in your system also available to be challenged, which is not at the beginning. So I know that from my own chronic healing journey, and I read a beautiful book. I can't remember. Alex Howard might have been the author who described that really well, and I resonated as he was talking about the different stages that I had also gone through it. I wish I would have known about the book when I was going through my healing journey a decade ago. And yeah, if you need some help and some coaching to get through this, do some nervous system regulation work with me, or are curious about it, how does that look like, then comment below, send me a message, and I'm happy to start a conversation.